And now, from the big picture, let's move down to the Thai perspective. So on my direct right hand side is Mr. Bunchai Si Chai Yongpanit, who is the committee member from the Thai Tapioca Trade Association. He was also former president before this. He was former president. So the big question for him at the moment is, how is Thailand benefiting for being one of the biggest players of cassava in the world, and how should we maintain that, as well as what is the threat in the short term and long term? เชิญคุณชัยได้เลยครับ We do apologize for the technical difficulties at the moment. Perhaps so we're waiting for the screen to come back. We will be okay. It's on. ขอบคุณครับ
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will talk about the cassava or tapioca in Thailand first, and then after that, I will comment what you have the idea about the China corn. Okay, now in ASEAN, we have the Thailand that grow tapioca for the number one in the ASEAN. But in the world, we are the second after the Nigeria. Nigeria is the first one. They produce about 55 million tons. And then Thailand is 31 million. And in Vietnam, allow nearly 10 million. And after that, maybe your other speaker can talk in more detail. And in Cambodia, allow 8.4 million tons. And in Thailand, they grow tapioca for quite a long time already, about 50 years ago. And it's really is a magic plan, because in many years ago, the farmer, what they do is only they put a stem in the ground, and then they come to Bangkok, and then drive the taxi, and then after 8 months, and go back, and then harvest it. So they don't care about the production. They just only grow and then come Bangkok, and then go back to his home, and then dig it out. So in the past, the yield is really low. It's only 14 tons per hectare only. So it's quite really low. So after we have the problem with the EU that time, they have the cap reform. So they try to reduce all the price of their own grain. So tapioca is no more competitive with those gains. So it seems that tapioca have no future. Then all the people in Thailand, the government and the private sector, they will try to see what we have to do with the tapioca. So they try to improve the quality, try to improve the soil quality. Then we can improve at that time up to 22 tons per hectare. But in the year 2009, we have the problem with the Maulibak. The Maulibak have been affect quite a lot of the production. It's come down to allow 30% less. Then we come down to allow 18 tons per hectare. But after that, after the help from the Ministry of Agriculture and all the private sector, we can solve this problem quite really short time. So right now we are going to improve, and now we can reach allow 22 tons per hectare. This is the estimate use of the tapioca in Thailand. So actually we can go only 30 million tons of tapioca in last year. But what we do is we use in locally and we export allow 40 million tons. So that's what happened is that we import the tapioca from Cambodia, from Laos, and then there are some carry over stock from the private sector and from the government. So this is the use of the tapioca in the tapioca chips and tapioca pellet industry. We use around 500,000 tons of the tapioca pellet and chips for the local feed mill, and we export around 7.14 million tons of chips and pellet. So total, we use around 17 million tons of the lute for the chips and pellet. And the market for the chips from Thailand is China. It's the biggest market, and then you can see that it increased year by year from 2 million tons, and now 3 million tons, 4 million tons, 5 million tons, 7 million tons. And this year we also predict the same, that it's come 7 million tons again. For this hard pellet, maybe nothing special because the hard pellet is normally used for the feed mill. They have to compete with the corn, we have to compete with the feed mill, with the feed wheat. So we cannot compete with anything here. For the starch, we export 3.89 million tons of starch, and locally we use 1.44 million tons. So total we use 21.8 million tons of lute to produce the starch. Also, the big market for the starch is also China. So the China, you can see we export. The last crop is 1.7 million tons of the starch. And the second one is Indonesia for this year, and Japan, Taiwan, Malaysia. And this is the usage in Thailand, used in sweetener, used in MSG, the modified starch paper, tapioca pearl, textile. So it's increased also year by year. Now we predict that we can use up to 1.49 million tons of the starch locally. Also now we use the tapioca lute or chips and chips to produce the ethanol. And in this year we use about 1.76 million tons of the lute to produce 280 million liter of the ethanol. In Thailand there are 6 factories that produce the ethanol, and then if they run full capacity, then they can use up to 3.1 million tons of lute. And by end of this year, we hope that the other 2 factories will complete. If they complete, then total they can use up to 4.1 million tons. But it also depends on the molasses, because Thailand, they also have the sugar cane. They produce the ethanol from the molasses also. So this is what I'm going to show you is that in Thailand, the last crop, we produced 30 million tons, and then we use around 8.88 million tons, and then they are available, we export around 21 million tons. This year, the 2014-2015 is this crop. So we predict that we can produce 31 million tons. So if the consumption for locally is still more or less the same, then we have the balance for export around 21.49 million tons. So now come back to the Asian production. So this is the latest figure that we got for this year. The 2015 is been 2014 and 2015. So the Thailand also still is biggest one that produced the tapioca lute. Indonesia also, from the information from the FAO, they said they produced 27 million tons of lute. But we also wondering why this year Indonesian they import quite a lot of the starch from Thailand, quite huge amount. And this is for this year, Thailand, okay, I already said that we can produce 31 million tons. Okay, the balance for export is 21 million tons. Vietnam, what we guess, we get information from the trader. They said they use locally around 3 million tons, so the production is 9.9 million tons. Then they will have 6.9 million tons for export. Cambodia also, they have 8.4 million tons, and they use 1.1 million tons to produce starch for feed mill for ethanol, and then the balance for export is around 7.2 million tons. Laos have around 600,000, then use 400,000 for locally, then they will have around 200,000 tons for export. So totally, in those countries that produce the tapioca and have the balance for export is around 36 million tons of the root. We consider from last year, last crop, Thailand they export chips and pellet 16 million, starch 15 million, so totally 31 or 32 million. In Vietnam, they export 1.5 million of chips and pellet, so it's equal to the root 3.4 million, and starch they export 1.6 million. So total Vietnam export in terms of root is 10 million. So total, what these two countries export is about 42 million tons. So what I'm going to show you is that the ability of the country that produce the tapioca for export is 36 million, but the demand from the importing country is around 42 million. But this year, they're still a little bit short because there's still some carryover from last year from the stock of the tapioca chips and the starch. So it still means that the future of the tapioca is still okay if China still intervention their corn price at a very high price. But right now, what I heard is from recently is that now they are rethinking again how to do with the corn stock in their stock. But it seems that they are so reluctant to release quickly. But what they will do is maybe they will lower the price that the intervention, but only some level only because their policy is only to support all the corn farmer. So this is what you said. Have to see what the China will do with the corn. Because once they dump the corn out, then I think Thai cassava also have the problem.
What will be the factors or what will be the indicators to foresee whether or not China, as the biggest economy in this region, will do so?
I think China is a very big country, and then they have about 1,600 million people. So I think once they eat 1 kilo each, they may be finished by few days.
Right. So let me change this question around. How is Thailand going to maintain its #1 position in Asia? What would you see as the threats?
What I see this year is that in the world market, the corn price and the wheat price and every commodity, every agricultural commodity already come to the bottom already. So there are some market that still keep on buying, especially the starch. You can see from the record that the starch from in Japan, Malaysia, or Taiwan, they still not change so much.
Right.
And then if Thailand, they prepare for the ethanol locally, and they try to help those industry in Thailand, I think that then it should go, can go into the future.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Woon Chai.